So just so users know, Christian, how do you get to the new live feed on LinkedIn? Okay. Yeah. It says it's on Spotify.
Oh, heavens. Not Spotify.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a Collab Talk podcast. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a link. That's what I'm looking for. Is I've never looked at the one on LinkedIn, the live cast, and I don't see a link to click on for the live cast. Hmm.
Oh.
Speak for yourself, Christian.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, let's close the shutter.
All right. Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
And everybody have a great weekend.
Too short.
Yeah, as always. Well, those that are just tuning in, if you didn't see the beginning screen here, this is the Microsoft Community Office Hours cast of literally dozens, minus a dozen or so, or dozens. We've got a handful of us. Baker's 5, I don't know. It's I've got donuts on the mind this morning for some reason. I was just I saw the empty container of the donut holes and felt sad.
Yeah, that brings me down.
Yes. So we are live streaming, simulcasting on a number of different channels. If you would like to ask a question and have us try to respond to that and answer that, send it to us at officehours@collabtalk.com. And I'm actively monitoring the chat that's happening over on the Facebook, over in the Office 365 community. So you can reach out to any one of us through multiple channels, and if you know how to get in touch with us, then do it. Get in touch with us. But you can find us office hours at collabtalk.com, and we'll do our best to address any questions. And then any homework that we want to address from prior weeks before we get started.
No.
Oh, short. Just no.
No.
Who wants to lead off? Anybody want to lead off?
Yeah. Well, I will say that I'll put this over there. So if you're looking for past weeks, you can go out to buckleyplanet.com. Like, here's episode 26. We are doing episode 27. 27th week in a row of our anti-COVID-19 protests. We're here, defiant of the COVIDs, providing value to maybe somebody somehow. But the blog post, if you see, we've got the videos, the recordings of each week, as well as a link list of all of the items, the questions that we've attempted to address. All right.
Is it really defiant if we're all in separate places and actually adhering to COVID rules?
No, I'm defiant of COVID.
Oh, you're gonna go
Of
there.
the COVIDs, yes.
He spits in the face of the disease.
That's
Riz, it's Monday. It's Monday. Take it easy.
Which
Okay?
is nasty because I spit in the face of it while wearing a mask. It's not good.
Guys, I warned you in the pregame. Aggression today.
Not the same effect.
Yeah, not quite the same effect. All right. Well, so no homework. All right, we'll just jump right in.
I'm sure Sean had homework. He's just not.
I'm not fessing up.
He didn't do his homework.
Yeah, didn't we assign something to Sean?
I think so.
Weeks ago.
Yeah. All right.
It's coming. There's something else that I was doing. I will do this. I will do my homework.
And I'm going to move us over into. I like Hal. He he blocks out the camera,
but he doesn't-
doesn't mute it. So we just get the sound effects.
Delicious.
What is going on?
Yeah.
What's that noise?
All right.
Housekeeping.
Always something.
Yeah, is there any,
Housekeeping.
any other housekeeping? Oh, we got this little thing going on this week. I don't know if anybody's noticed. Microsoft Ignite is happening, kicking off tomorrow. Yeah, there's a few things that are happening this week. So if somebody's never attended Microsoft Ignite, which is is it their biggest? I guess attendance wise historically has been.
No.
Since it hoovered up the other individual
Yeah.
product conferences. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
But it's the mostly IT Pro focus, so I think we're going to get just a ton of news. It's going to be dropping with the keynotes tomorrow morning. There's a lot of the announcements that go live. For us MVPs, we're all aware of some of the announcements being made. They even like to surprise us. They don't tell us everything, just so that we have a reason to pay attention as well to the keynotes. But that should be interesting, and we may have a bunch of new questions related to announcements next week. That could
Which I'm
be
sure we
interesting.
won't know the answers to.
Oh.
Good.
And hey, Joel is dropping in.
Oh, there goes the party.
I'm going to move us over to together mode, by the way.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh.
it's rejecting it. What's going on?
I wonder what that means.
It's a feature.
Oh, it says it's not available right now. All
Oh.
right.
Huh.
I know. So Joel, you're just
we go.
you're just a glowing button right there. So
Here we go.
What else? What other housekeeping are we missing?
are we missing
T-shirts.
something else?
T-shirts.
We could kick things off with t-shirts. That's right. Mike wants to show us his t-shirt.
That's like housekeeping.
Let's go.
You got to know what that is.
Like psychedelic.
Got it.
But if I stare at it long enough, I'm going to go into a trance here.
I mean, it's very Tron-esque, but no, I don't know what it is.
Believe it. I can't resist, especially you, man.
Uh-oh.
It's
I don't
plaid mode from Spaceballs.
I can go next so that we can build up.
It's gone. That's right.
They went to plaid mode.
He's violent.
Balls, huh? I like that. Nelson, impressive.
Yeah, it's actually a Tesla t-shirt because Tesla's coming out. If people don't know, Battery Day is tomorrow, and they plan on announcing plaid mode for their vehicles,
Wow.
which is one step past ludicrous.
Right.
This is Westworld. I don't know if you guys knew these violent delights have violent ends.
Nope.
I've not watched Westworld.
Yeah, I think it's the first season. They see this symbol inside of a skull on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
It's like tattooed on the
Yeah.
inside of the skull.
That's
Oh,
Westworld.
okay.
Westworld.
Yeah.
Westworld.
Yeah, like if you really get into AI movies, I think that's one of or shows, like that's one of the best AI ones ever. So there was a Westworld in the 70s with Yul Brynner,
Right.
fantastic movie, and the HBO show, which did just recently end. I know Jeff Teeper's a fan. Anyway, really
Name
good show.
drop.
Cool.
Name
Hey,
drop.
hey, Mike, I was going to say that I had a couple sessions that I used to give where I would talk about Spaceballs and plaid mode. And Joel, you might remember this too. And I would talk about how, like in planning out your architecture, if you make the wrong calculation at the beginning or the lack of planning, and then hit plaid mode, you like overshoot everything, you go the wrong direction, you end up in the wrong galaxy. And so it's why you can't just make that jump to hyperspeed. It's more of a Star Wars reference.
But Dark Helmet wanted to go. So
That's
Dark
right.
Helmet
That's the ludicrous mode, which is the Tesla reference. So it brings it all back.
That's right.
Al's got his hand up.
About Spaceballs.
Yeah. Hal, what about you? What's your shirt going? What do you have going on today?
Me, it's an old Ross shirt.
gotta do tattoo.
The real state of shade of 3D. Do I have any new T-shirts? No. No, I'm retired.
We'll have to
I'm
see.
waiting for people to hand them out. So that's the problem with these conferences going online as opposed to being in person. They don't hand out T-shirts.
Well, that's why
So
I'm
now
in
my
Branson
board
next
runner's taking
week.
up the shorts.
I'm in Branson next week for the North American Collab Summit purely for the T-shirt. I mean, that's it. Mark,
We'll pick up an extra one. I'll pay you.
Rackley's well aware of that as well. He knows where my alliances are. Riz, you have anything to show today?
Yeah, this one's I call it black. Do you like it?
All right. Yeah, it's nice. I feel like I've seen it before, but very nice.
Yeah, it
has-
doesn't look
It has a
black.
number of friends. So there's the black one, a number of black ones. Then there's a couple gray, some blue, various hues of gray. It just depends on the day.
Yeah, very nice. And Sean?
Too much to read.
Oh, come on.
The funniest thing to sit back and just look at everybody going like this. What's that say?
And then, of course, it's a little known fact that Lincoln was the first Batman. Just
There you go.
Google it.
I
Fact.
thought he was a vampire hunter.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, Vampire Hunter.
He had some
Much
time.
better
on his,
vampire
he,
hunter.
he didn't have social media or TV. He had time on his hands. He did it all. He was a Renaissance man. Come on.
I actually thought that was RBG for a minute until you stood up.
That would be cool.
nice.
RBG is a bad.
Yeah.
I'm just dropping in all the SEO terms I possibly can. So when Christian goes back,
Ruth Batman Ginsburg.
Well, that's all exciting, but let's jump in. First question. People are salivating. They want to know. So Sean
answers.
Sean provided feedback of which ones he'd like to start with. Although Hal still
can
has his hand up. Hal, do you have anything else?
Yeah, Al, you got your hand up.
Huh?
It's like Dwight
I do?
Schrute, when he had his head injury. Just
Oh,
like
that
yes,
hand. Yeah.
yes,
Oh.
yes. What your
Hal's
hand is
still
up.
hungover. Hal's still hungover, so we're just.
testing functionality there. There you go.
All right. So
Wow.
we're going to start with number 9.
Just gonna keep doing it here, so I wave at you all for a while.
That's very nice.
Well,
And
that's-
little
Why
box.
number 9? Why did you pick 9? Why is
Sean did.
Sean, you picked 9? Is that
Uh,
because it's a Sean question and a Sean answer?
Come on, Mike. You're acting like this is your first time at the rodeo. Christian sends out the questions, and we're supposed to send him the ones we want to address first.
Yeah.
So I just picked a handful of questions.
Here we go. So Anthony asks, I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask. Yeah, none of us are sure of that.
Neither are we.
Yeah.
That's the first way to get to the top of the list.
It's more of an Azure question, but here
Number
goes.
9.
So he was asking it out on the Office 365 community on Facebook. I have successfully set up a Power App and Flow for our HR team to fill in an onboarding form, and it automatically sets up the new users with Office with 365 email and Azure account, as well as licensing the user and assigning them to teams and Azure groups. The problem is I would also like to set up an on-premises would be the correct usage, Active Directory account. Is there any way to do this? I've come across a data gateway and installed it, but I can't see how it connects to AD.
Well, the first problem is you need to establish it in on-prem AD before you start putting it in the cloud, so that it
Yes.
represents out. Otherwise, you're going to have to match up SIDs and do all that kind of ugliness.
The only other way to do that is if you actually have your AD and AAD and not in on-prem.
Yeah, you're totally a cloud account.
Yeah, because you can if you just have AAD, you can create a read-only on-prem, and you can have AAD push changes down to on-prem. But most likely, and I'm assuming from what he's writing here, that he started out on-prem and he's trying to replicate up to AAD.
Yeah,
Can't do that. Can't
Just
create
test.
an account.
yeah, it just has the order of operations wrong.
Well, it sounds almost like he's trying to do after the effect that they've kind of made that mistake and not done that sync. So
So, in case He's a System Center user. I don't know anybody. Sadly, I don't know that Orchestrator sees a whole lot of use, but it's the old Opalus product that Microsoft bought. It's basically like BizTalk for admin processes and things like that. It allows you to develop run books that, provisioning new users and things like that. It would be type of process he's describing would be well orchestrated by Orchestrator, surprisingly. But that assumes a System Center license and things like that. Otherwise, you could just do it with.
You said a dirty word. I feel all dirty now.
You feel dirty? Why do you feel dirty, Mike?
BizTalk. You said BizTalk. It just made me give me the willies.
It's given me many willies. As a developer of Functoids, way back when. Oh my god.
Functoids.
Yeah, Functoids. Those are the little widgets you would stick in BizTalk. And that was back when .NET had just come in, so I had to marry up. You had to put a COM callable wrapper around .NET code and pin memory. Oh god, that was a nightmare time. And you still were in DLL hell, even running .NET code, because it had to be COM callable. I know. And this is the point where my wife would be going, wow, 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 wow.
There we go. Thanks for the prompting, and we got together mode working. So,
yay!
So together.
Yep. All right, let's jump to question 13 that Sean had also selected here. Adriana said, I read on Microsoft's site that the limit of participants in a meeting is 300, but on the last week, one of my colleagues sent an image that there were 340 people in a meeting. Does anyone know something about this? I found some information about live events, but not for a meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean. This is your question.
You can go for it, Mike. I just found a link, and as recently as August, they had upped it to 300, and I know that their goal is to go to 1,000. But
if you look at the Office of 365 update emails that come out to admins, they actually put in there a thing about how they're slowly rolling out capacity upgrades across the team orgs. So some folks have 300, folks have 500, and I don't know if they've gone above that yet, but they're doing a slow rollout and increasing, orgs. So.
Have they gone to plaid yet, Mike?
Yeah, no, they have not. I wish they would.
Yeah,
I think that's an interesting one. The numbers just keep going up, and you're not gonna. I don't know anywhere in the UI where it shows some max limit. So it's an interesting one. How are you going to know if you hit it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the other discussion points with the community server, some folks are aware of this. So Microsoft is currently piloting, but for user groups and online events, eventually around the world. I don't know if there's any geographical limitations now with the pilots that are happening. But like we're piloting next week, doing a hybrid event in Branson, Missouri, and we're going to have online moderators for each of the 6 tracks, and then in-room monitors with cameras and wireless mics, and it'll be interesting. Hopefully everything works. But since I'll be there managing a lot of that piece, but there's a lot of discussion around these limitations and what's actually needed for these events and performance of these events the larger we get. Like Joel, for the M365 virtual conference, like what were the concurrent user numbers that you guys had?
We did live events for 99% of our stuff. We were using meetings as a backup. We did end up putting one of them into a meeting where we did have 300 plus, and we had a lot of, this was before the mute all feature was rolled out.
Yeah.
So it was painful. It's gotten a lot better with the roles and your ability to manage meetings. But we pushed it pretty hard. Concurrent, we had 21 concurrent live meetings going on at once. From a concurrency in a meeting perspective, it was one of our backup ones that ended up being a little over 300. But in terms of a live meeting, they were saying we could have 10,000 plus. So we didn't have any issues with number of users in a particular meeting.
Yeah, I want to say that on they're doing the briefings for the folks who are going to be SMEs and presenting at Ignite and the Teams live events. I think they said they gave a number of like 50K, upwards of 50K users.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I'm actually participating. I've got 2 sessions, Ask the Experts, for moving server workloads into Azure, and the community, why, how and why you should be part of the community. I don't remember the exact title. But they told us that the community ones are limited, and they're limited to, I think, 150 people or something like that, or 160 people. But the Ask the Experts are open to about 5,000.
Are those are those meetings the community ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're running those on Teams.
So even then, they're throttling to keeping those smaller than the 300.
Well, the community ones, they have the, what are they called? They're doing the learn. They're doing community. They're doing diversity, and they've got a couple other tracks around community, and those are all limited in attendance. You have to sign up for them, and then you get a box. Once that limit's hit, you get a box that says add to your backpack, I think, and session is full or something. But for the Ask the Experts, which is obviously, they got like 20 Microsoft people there, and the rest are all MVPs or RDs, answering on chat. That's what they got us doing. But that's about 5K.
And I'll say again, if you've not yet registered for Ignite, go out to ignite.microsoft.com and sign up. It's free to attend and participate and start building out your schedule. A lot of the tracks, the topics are repeated so that they're hitting global time zones. Sessions are running, like the keynotes are from 8 a.m. Pacific until 11:45 p.m. Pacific. So not quite 24 hours. I don't know why they're being so lazy about that small block of time. Just do it. Commit to it, Microsoft. Come on.
Well, part of
basically what they've done is there's really, if you divide the world into 8s, there's 3 of them. So what you'll notice is every session is repeated twice. So it's done, and then it's done again and done again. So you basically got one in the Americas, one in APAC, and then one in EMEA. So basically the idea is everybody gets a session in their daylight hours. And all the sessions basically go across a 48-hour period. So you've got either day 1 or day 2, but with things repeated.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I've got Ask the Experts is 2 sessions. One that's in my normal daytime, right? And the second one is I have to be, be on at 11 p.m. my time, which is, 9 p.m. Pacific time. And the main folks that are giving it, Jeff Woolsey and can't remember the other one, they are pre-recorded, but the folks that are answering the chat and stuff are all live. So.
Yeah, I've got the same thing, Mike. I've got midnight Thursday morning, and then again at 7:30 in the morning. So it's like it's going to be burning some midnight oil, I think.
Yeah. One quick tip: if you're doing a search, you're doing a search and filtering. Sometimes the ones that are the best for you aren't the first one listed. So you actually have to scroll down. Sometimes the better times are actually further down. And when you do a search or you filter, you'd think that those 3 would all be grouped together, but that's not always the case. So sometimes the third one is a little further down.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, ready for next question? Sean, third on his list was number 11. We're going with the Sean favorites because we don't know if he's going to ditch early again. We have no idea. Again, people need to commit to stuff. Number 11, Inaris asks, I wrongly deleted a OneNote notebook for my students. How do I get it back?
My follow-up question is, where was it stored?
So it's out in Teams.
OneNote has a recycle bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not deleted. It's not gone. So if you deleted it.
Yeah, OneNote has a recycle bin.
Yeah. And you can't even go in there and forcefully delete it out of the recycle bin. You can't do that with OneNote. My understanding is the only way you can do that is if you actually go into OneDrive and actually forcefully delete it out of there.
Kill the file.
Yeah. Because
And even then, if it's being stored in SharePoint or OneDrive, it goes into the site recycle bin. Well, it goes in person's recycle bin, then it goes to the site recycle bin after 30 days. And that whole dance with SharePoint recycle bins.
Yeah, so depending on where
he wants to pull it back, yeah.
Right.
The second stage. Yeah.
Second stage, like we're launching a rocket.
Yeah, if Inaris if you've gone out and deleted it from OneDrive, you've purged it, and then realized, ooh, I shouldn't have done that, then talk with your admin, because there are a couple other options to go and retrieve that.
Assuming your admin's not malicious.
That's true. They can always say no. That's the worst thing that could happen.
This is true.
All right, so now we're going to go to question number 1. Now that we've placated Sean, his whims. It was in his writer. No brown M&Ms. The room has to be 72.4 degrees at all times. Only Avion water, and then he has to have his 3 questions that he selected go first. So,
Sean, can you hold up the Avion water? We just want to make sure you received it on time.
That's right.
There we go.
There it is. It's delivered in a bucket, though, Eric. That was part of it. It was in the writer.
Bring me a bucket.
All right.
I appreciate the writer because I was the recipient of all the brown M&Ms, so that worked out for both of us.
That's right. Yeah, it's always convenient. I select people for the panel based on that, whether Eric had in his writer only brown M&Ms, and so it worked out. Kismet. Number 1, Mario says, we're already in hybrid state, but wish to leave hybrid and be full cloud. How do I reconfigure 80 to 100 machines to leave the domain and then join Azure AD without hybrid?
The answer is one at a time.
And you didn't pick that as the first question? Come on.
I've never scripted domain joins. Mike, have you scripted domain joins?
Yeah, I'm busy. I'm sorry. I was looking up somebody else's answer. I was.
I totally believe you, but I'm thinking you got some input on this.
You can do that. I'm committed to each question as they are asked.
So yeah,
there will be no cheating.
Ought to be committed.
I'm trying to be as good as Sean. I mean, Christian has a thing for Sean. Sean is like a favorite, and we know that. So you have to try and get in there and
Sean responds to the email.
Is that all it takes?
That's it.
Oh, cap.
I do have favoritism, and it's based on effort.
That's lame. I thought it was based off price or food.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So whenever somebody wants to move from Azure, when you want to move from a hybrid state up into full cloud, you can actually have the migration tools to do that. There's a couple of third-party migration tools. I can look them up to do that. But essentially, what it is, once you've got active AAD, in hybrid mode, you can basically, turn that off. You can turn off the sync, right? And you can when you turn off the sync, you can force AAD to be your primary, your identity point, the truth, the source of truth for everything AAD. But then, I'm sorry?
Cut the umbilical.
Yeah, you're cutting the umbilical cord, basically. And there's a complete Microsoft documentation on how to do that, along with moving workloads. Now, moving workloads is a little bit different, right? Because some workloads may have dependencies on premises that it could be 1,000 different things that are connected to, 100 different things on premises. So if you want to be, when you talk about leave hybrid and be full cloud, you're just talking about the machines, right? Which is not difficult to do because you can bring those machines as devices into Azure AD. They're sitting as objects in AAD. You can, if you have an Intune license, you can manage those devices with Intune. But when you're talking about the applications or the workloads, then, and I don't see that, he didn't bring that up in the question at all. That's something that has to be, really planned out, and how they have everything connected. But the moving of user objects, the moving of policy objects, the moving of machine or device objects, even phones or computers, desktops, laptops, whatever. That is kind of simple and pretty well spelled out in MS Docs.
A lot of the marketing material, of course, was saying that when organizations were concerned about moving straight from their on-prem to the cloud, direct to the cloud, and one of the ideas of a hybrid is that you could do some of the work now, maintain the existing infrastructure, but that it would help streamline the move to the cloud, later. Is that true?
It will, because the situation, everybody's different, right? Every situation is different. I mean, I've got some people that I work with that have had really hard time because they have things that are still tied back to a mainframe, and still have jobs and things like that. So, migration may take longer than necessary, but having that ability to tie back, like you said, or making that transition easier is a definite plus. And no transition plan is going to be quick and easy in terms of moving everything. Yeah. Don't ever take that for granted either. I mean, if some third party comes along and says, "Hey, we can do this for you. It'll take us a week or so." Yeah, you're going to need a little bit more planning than that. Even just moving user accounts and devices, because it's a whole different world. It's a whole different world than what you're used to on premises.
So Liam, instead of just chatting us up on the Book of Faces, decided to join us here. Liam, anything to add?
I have no idea what you're talking about a minute ago. I know you're talking about Windows devices and Azure AD and all that kind of fun stuff. That's about as much as I heard before I disconnected and joined this.
Excellent.
Now, he's not on camera. How do we know that's really Liam? I
am putting on camera. Hold on a second.
I know a bunch of guys who can do a good Liam.
It's got really, a bunch of people that could do good voices of me. Yeah, something like that.
My name is Liam.
Consider the source.
most of us are actually on the call, but
there you go. I'm on the call now.
Same office as Riz.
Yeah, I know. We're in the same building. I'm on the other side.
Yep. Hey, can you pass the sugar?
Yep. Hold on.
Thanks.
You guys hanging out together? You on the road?
Yeah, we are.
Liam, you on the road?
You know what? I'll have to change it now. There you go. I'm going to be at the beach instead. There we go. It's much better.
There we go.
Looks hot.
It does. It's melting.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump to question number 2. Nitin asks, is there a way to send email notification to a particular user or maybe admin if there is a new guest added to Microsoft Teams? There's an inbuilt template in Microsoft Flow, but that only can be used for particular teams using Teams ID or Office 365 Group ID. I need email notification from all the teams in my tenant. So this has been, I know there's I believe there's a user voice on this. I didn't go and look for it this morning, but this is a request that I've heard come up a few times. And people have asked variations of this question, like wanting to be able to look and see who's joined, from joining a meeting to being added to a team and being able to approve one-off and have other admin, more granular controls. But to be able to get a notification as an admin that guests have been added to, I guess in theory, so that you as an admin could approve that or not, and set up an in-between, a process for that. I'm not aware of anything specifically on the roadmap. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add or aware of this or. Official statement. That'll show up great in the transcript, Sean. Thank you.
My official response.
But no, there's not a way today that I'm aware of. It's you have everything enabled, you have it turned on, or you have it turned off to be able to add guests, and there's no way to automatically, natively notify the admin of the guests that have been added, other than on a daily basis, if you're concerned about that, to go in and look at the membership in each one of those teams.
There's not an audit.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Compliance flag.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is an audit log. So it's not in the audit log search in the security and compliance. It doesn't surface there. You can get guest users, but it doesn't give you all the details that you need. Azure AD is your friend for this one. So Azure AD, if you filter out Azure AD and say, I want to find external guests that have come in, because even if they come into Teams, they still get registered as Azure AD guests anyway, you can capture that. And then in the new iterations of Azure AD that they've been working on, some of the stuff that started feeding through the tenants now is you can set up alerts from within Azure AD. So, for example, I like to feed stuff from Azure AD into a workspace, like an analytics workspace, or into the new version, the Azure SIEM kind of Sentinel platform. You could definitely get alerts out of that. So you could basically capture it and say there's a guest being added, and then push alerts out of Azure AD to an admin if you wanted to. That's really the only place you've got right now, because the Teams interface doesn't have any of that.
I like that strategy as well of saying these teams or these site collections can or can't support guests, and then just turning it off, doing the big switch where it's like a kind of a unified labeling strategy where these types of ones that are classified as this support guests, these other ones, no guests allowed.
Yeah, so I've been doing a bunch of work in schools since about March. So one of the projects I've been working on, I've been working with the Department for Education in the UK, working with schools in the UK because I have the accent that matches. So I've been allowed to work with them. And so they've had a big push from the government, came out and said every single school in the UK needs to have remote learning enabled for all of their kids. And so Google have come together and Microsoft and the government and paid for it. So there's like funding provided by the government to allow. Is that one of the
signs of the apocalypse, Liam?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I'm involved. It's perfect.
No, that makes perfect sense. Also, I do think it's for those that are out there. It sounds like that all you need is to have the right accent, and you can pick up contracts with.
Oh, perfectly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't get anything stateside. I mean, I don't sound like.
I'll have to ask though, Liam. When you go back there, do they think that you sound too American? Like, have you lost a little bit of your accent where they poke fun at you?
Oh yeah, I mean, my brother, he was moaning at me the other day saying that I sound American, but it's not that you sound American. It's that the words that you now use have changed. So instead of me saying put stuff in the rubbish bin, I'm going to say put it in the trash. Which you would never say trash. It's that's not what that. It's just not the right word. It's rubbish bin.
People are trash.
Yeah, people are trash. Like that's okay. But I mean, it's the change of the words and then the inherent use of the word like for no apparent reason. It just appears as like it's one of those. I said it again. It's a whisper word. You know, when you say or whatever, like now becomes a whisper word. And especially when you're recording a course, you have to make sure you don't say the word like in the middle of stuff. So that's one thing they pick up on. So yes. So I had to brush up. I stood in front of the mirror for hours practicing to make sure that I didn't use that so I could speak to them properly.
So there's your next course topic, Liam.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to get a contract. This is how you have to sound.
I want to say, like, I went and used a third party for the first few episodes of my podcast to go and clean that up. And they remove a lot of those pregnant pauses, the ums, the ahs, that kind of stuff. And it didn't sound natural.
No,
after
it doesn't.
It was so scrubbed, and it seemed rushed, like it was at 1.5 times speed.
Those natural pauses have gone.
Right.
So it's just like all the way through. But yet people don't always like it. But actually, I did a course for LinkedIn Learning, and they said leave them in. Like, don't try and cut them out. They just have you naturally speak because they said their learners learn better by listening to the way that you would actually communicate with them. And so then they slice everything around you to make it work. And so, yeah, it worked great.
Well, I'm having
So,
second thoughts about the way that I meticulously edit these recordings.
Yeah, in real time editing.
Yes.
Yes. So impressed. So impressed.
I know. All right. Well, I think that's a good answer for that. When we actually answered at the beginning of it, and then we rambled on for 20 minutes. All right. Let's see. Question number 3. Sam asked, I like doing those just gentle slams. It's it's part of the love that I bring to the table here. Sam,
by dinner time to make it through the list.
Yes.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we'll
Question
get through, because there's 4 questions that are holdover from last week, and it's all right if we don't get through all of them. See, number 3. I think we had a variation of this question. Sam asked this: has anyone noticed recently a change in tags? Did we talk about this last week or 2 weeks ago?
I can tell you that you've got the same question as number 15.
Yeah, so you duplicated the question, but
okay. Well, then
we didn't talk about this specific thing. We did talk about tags, but we didn't talk about this specific issue.
Yeah. Because this is one of the questions from last week that we didn't get to. That's why it was duplicated. So sorry about that.
Yeah. And I tried to look this up. This is one of the things that I was trying to look up when people were giving me a hard time about concentrating so hard. Yeah. And I remember some things coming across the DLs, the distribution list, around tags, but it wasn't about this. It was around some tags in Azure that they changed some of the functionality. So I can't find anything on this. I apologize, but I don't know the answer to this. I don't see why they would change it, that you can't get alerts off of tags. I mean, all you're doing is you're looking for a specific flag. Basically, a tag is just a flag, a field inside of a database. Looking, and you're just, shooting a notification based off of that. But I don't know.
Get one of your mainframe guys to write a batch job, Mike.
Yeah.
Because I'm not experiencing that at all. I mean, I get a lot of notifications, and when I log into that tenant, a lot of them are around those tags. So it's
so you're definitely getting it off a tag, though, not off an event or an alert. You're getting it off the tag, because there are different kinds of alerts, as you know. I mean, different kind of notifications. Is that you're basing it off of a pre-built notification that's built in to 365 or inside of the tenant, a policy or something like that. But then you can actually specify inside of a notification, hey, just look for this one tag, like created by, or whatever tag name you want. And I don't know, maybe are you getting those?
I don't know. I'd have to go and look at the tag types because I have both in place. I mean, I'm definitely getting the notifications where a Microsoft Teams tag is created, which is essentially a DL around a certain word or phrase. I'm getting those notifications.
Yeah. Okay.
Are other people not receiving those? Like, I've not gone in and looked to see if I'm not receiving them in every tenant. I mean, I've got 2 or 3 guest tenants where I can go in and look at where I normally receive those kinds of notifications to see if there's any differences.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I wouldn't know from, I don't have any set for 365, but Azure, I do. And like I said, I don't know if they treat, I don't know why they would, but if they treat Azure tags different than 365, I mean, 365 is Azure, so they have to be using the same code for tags. I would assume, I would make that assumption.
So, Mike, are you saying you would like some homework to go look into this and report back on this? Because that's what I heard. That's what I heard. Okay. Okay.
You walked into it, Mike.
I will look into that tag issue because I couldn't find anything. I just was doing a quick search and I couldn't find anything. And I thought it was really important because Christian had to put it down twice. So it had to be that important. And I know, you really wanted an answer to this badly.
Yes.
He's playing latency and recency effect. I mean, he puts it right at the beginning and right at the end.
Yeah.
It's that call to action. You have to double up on that. Yeah, that's true.
I will say that number 14 is something we have talked about from James.
Have we answered that one?
We've discussed it at one other time. I remember this. And this is, James is asking, in Teams, does anyone know the maximum number of saved items a user can have? I got that question from a staff member today, and I can't find the answer. The reason is because there is no limit. It's based off the storage. So it's just, that's all it is. It's, once you fill up your OneDrive, which I don't know if anybody really has.
I haven't yet.
I tried and I couldn't do it. I spent
So here's a side note.
I actually wrote a blog post about the unlimited OneDrive. It's in stages. It's in tiers.
Yeah. You got to keep going back.
But you've got to jump through hoops to get there.
So I've been interested because obviously I work with lots of commercial tenants, and they have a finite amount of storage normally allocated to them. And then I logged into a couple of education tenants. And the first tenant I logged into, when you click into OneDrive and look at the storage, it's 1 petabyte of storage. So the way the schools do it, education does it, it's like, you've got 5,000 students and then teachers, and then there's a certain amount that they get, and then it just grows. I had never seen a tenant with that much storage. And I went into one, a high school, 2 petabytes of storage available to them. I didn't even know that was a thing until I went in, and I was like, whoa, that's what I need in my tenant.
That's a lot of zeros.
That's a lot of zeros. I'm like, there's no way. And I was thinking, could I fill that? What would I fill it with? Just so much stuff. But yeah, I hadn't realized that education tenants, their calculation is significantly different to normal commercial tenants.
I just think it's amazing. I've shared this in the past, but this one of my first data warehouse projects that we sweated over for months. It was an 800 gig database, and when we finished the migration, it was 1.2 or 1.4 terabytes with a bunch of things that we did to it. And I always remark that I have a full external drive, a music drive that's 2 terabytes, and just scratches the surface of my collection of so the scope of that and petabytes. I mean, my first thought is that the kid's doing everything on video now and capturing that. Much more quickly.
It's in tight, Hal.
But man, managing that. Ugh.
I actually looked at some of the apps that Microsoft are recommending now for education, and they have, I suppose you can almost explain it as like a TikTok type equivalent, where the kids can answer the questions with like little video snippets, and it's being pushed as like you basically log in and it's like boom, video, you're like you can do a dance and answer it, and then you publish it back to the teachers, and they're all stored into the tenant, like all of these little videos. I mean, absolutely bizarre. But like, there's some really cool kind of ways of interacting with the kids now. I mean, unfortunately for where I live, we're Google Classroom people, so they all have Chromebooks, which I kick quite frequently.
Yeah, that's pretty prevalent in the U.S. too. But I got to give you bonus points because you just you bring up the one of the number 1 hot topics in the U.S. right now, TikTok. So he gets bonus points. He gets a little gold star next to him.
Sweet. I want to see the star. Yeah. I mean, who would have thought Oracle and Walmart? Let's just say that.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Oracle and Walmart. I mean, come on. It was weird enough, let's be honest, with Microsoft looking at it. But Oracle and Walmart? Walmart. I mean, come on. You'll be able to do your shopping on TikTok. You can do a dance, and I want a banana, and I want this, and I want this, and they'll ship it to you.
And you do a whole bunch of outfit changes.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I actually want to try that. I want to, like, have some shoes and then go, and then, like, appear dressed in different clothes.
You do that, Liam.
No, I know.
And I will watch it.
I don't even have TikTok. I don't even have TikTok installed.
You don't want to report to China?
Weirdly not. Not for this machine, anyway.
Find yourself on some of your own reports.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, oh, I'm on it again. Seriously. Yeah.
All right. Are you guys done?
Yeah, sorry. I knew we were boring you then, Christian. I could see it as he phased out to the side. I'm like, he's looking at the other screen.
Sorry, sir.
No, I'm just looking at. I was looking at reading ahead those next couple questions, just getting ready. This next one is interesting. I wasn't aware of this around. So Ed asks, this is number 4. We've been using FindTime for a few years, and FindTime is a great app if you've got a bunch of people, especially internally. You can use it externally, but give people times and days to vote on to get together and meet. And if everyone agrees on a time, it will automatically book that. So that's what FindTime is. We've been using it for a few years. It's always created meeting notices using Teams. Recently, though, it started using Skype for Business, which is a problem as we don't even use it. We were in islands mode, and I guess recently Microsoft switched what that used. We switched islands mode long before there was a Teams only mode. So yesterday, per this article, I switched to Teams only mode, and it said it could take 4 hours to take effect. 18 hours later, FindTime is still using Skype for Business. I checked the Teams admin panel and is indeed in Teams only mode. So where else can I go? Can I look to get FindTime and Outlook to use Teams?
Stupid question. Did you try and reboot?
Are you suggesting turn it off and on again, Sean?
No, he wants to reboot Office 365.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Restart. Hey, I like that, Sean. You lean back and your big head picked up. Lean back again. There.
There it is.
Lean forward slightly. Oh, see your other head back there, looking over your shoulder. That's funny.
I thought that was Joe Biden with the mask on.
He's there whispering on your neck.
I thought Wes was with you.
No, that would be illogical.
Yeah, that's right.
Normally it's the back of our heads, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so has anybody experienced this or heard of this issue?
I've started getting some weird alerts from some friends that would normally speak to me on Teams, and then weirdly they popped up in Skype, and I have no idea why. Like, nothing's configured that way. But, I mean, I can speak to them on Teams. I don't think it's anything necessarily to do with them. I think what you're finding is the outcome of drastic changes that they're making across the platform. I mean, you know that they're massively trying to scale so it can handle not just events like this week, but, just normal stuff anyway. I know that so some of the work I've been doing is mass applying Microsoft Teams policies to, 3,000 or 4,000 people in one go. I mean, it can take hours, absolutely hours and hours. Even with the new updates for batch updates and stuff in PowerShell, it can take days for it to apply. So what do? We run everything on a Friday, and then leave it through the weekend when nobody's on it, and come Monday morning, everything looks like it works pretty well. So it may just be that. It may just be a lag in time. I don't know the answer because, mine seems to have gone now, so it may have just been a glitch.
Let me just say as well, I think there's way too many people who are in that islands mode. Islands mode is not a place to hang out for long periods of time. You really need to get to Teams only. Yeah. It's a lot of companies who probably just set and forget, thinking islands mode means they can run both and people can choose whatever they want, but really it's a poor experience for the users.
Yeah, this is one of those issues where I would say, like, look, if you see it a couple days from now, you're still experiencing the problem, go log a ticket just to make sure there's not something else happening. But I agree. I think it's just one of these things just with changes that are happening across the tenants. And sometimes it takes a few days for these things to kind of settle. And we see this with features, and I realize that we're in together mode now. This is still in preview, but even the option disappeared from the menu for several days and then came back. And there was no notification around it. It's just as they're updating things and tweaking things in the back end. It's an evergreen platform. Changes are happening, and so sometimes you just have to be patient with things like that.
Have any of you seen Large Gallery Mode app operational at any time?
We just had that in one of the MVP calls where they had, 49
that's
49
the only
people.
time I've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen it as well. Really impressive.
Yep.
But if you look in your options right now, it's a preview that's not available. So
right. It's kind of the same answer for the next one, number 5, I would say. With Alessa is asking about, says, I'd like to install the Grammarly and Translator add-ons on Word 365, but it says Microsoft 365 has been configured to prevent the acquisition of individual Office add-ons. Previously on another PC with the same account, I had this add-on installed. How can I solve the problem?
That's a Office Store block.
Yep.
There's a policy to block the installation of apps from the Office Store.
Yeah, so it sounds like if you were able to do it previously, that admin may have gone in and changed that.
And usually it's because of you get an app that people start installing that isn't really maybe necessarily business productive, but that affects all apps. There's no granularity to that policy at all.
Mike, that's like a fringe case, though, of people using apps that they aren't authorized to use. I mean, I've rarely heard of that happening.
Yeah, it never happens ever.
Just a fringe case.
Right,
That's all.
Yeah. All right, and I guess I should be checking, see if any emails have come in. Does anybody have that open? I didn't even have Outlook open to see.
Yeah, I got it open. We got nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for all of the emails, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. The audience.
I'll mention that again. So not just during our live streams here, but throughout the week, feel free if you have questions. And we are responding to stuff during the week as well. And some of these questions as well, if we individually feel so impressed to do so, or go in and we'll respond to the questions out in the Facebook groups or wherever those questions come through. And then, of course, you can always go to buckleyplanet.com and search on the office hours. And we have this is the episode 27, and there will be a complete link list on the blog. I'll share it again at the end so people are reminded of that. But feel free to send us emails at officehours@collabtalk.com as well. All right.
This announcement sponsored by Buckley Planet.
What?
This announcement sponsored by Buckley Planet.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm surprised the video didn't go off and it just had the logo sitting right there in the middle. Yeah.
Well, I could always just bring it up on screen again. So where did I have it here?
Sorry.
All he needs is encouragement.
Yeah.
There we go.
You're not
This is what it
programmed
looks
into
like
your
here.
Stream Deck? You're not programmed it on your Stream Deck, so you press the button and it just appears over the top.
Because I usually don't flog it like this, but I will for next week. So yeah.
Nice.
But what's nice about this again, you've got the recording. So I'll have this up today or tomorrow, the recording from today. But you can go and check it out here, as well as a link list of every topic. So you don't have to wade through 90 minutes of video. You can jump right to it, like where I use the phrase, "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of SharePoint migration." That was classy.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Severus Snape was thinking SharePoint when he made that quote. All right, so Mirko, number 6. Mirko asks, "Hi, if I change the UPN for easier authentication, what happens with the SID of the user?"
Nothing.
So nothing happens to the SID
Nothing.
because it retains the original UPN. You can't get rid of the original UPN basically, okay, unless you go in and and actually do an AD, what is that called? AD edit, ADSI edit, and go and edit the Active Directory. There's a document that I pulled up and I'll provide a link to. In the where do you want us to put links there?
If you put it in the chat here, and I'm adding it to the capture and the recording, and I've got it in my notes, so it'll be in the blog post as well.
Right below is mocking of us.
I'm going to drop it in.
Yes.
There you go. So this basically outlines exactly what happens between the SID and the custom attributes. There's a principal ID that's actually generated for the user, and that ID actually changes if you modify the UPN. So it explains it all in the document.
That's good. And I just noticed that Wilhelm, who is he looks like he's recovering from hopefully he's getting some sleep from the new baby, but he did a gentle mock of Riz for ditching the giant headphones. Liam is sporting them, of course, but
why not? I mean,
Riz
these are
yeah,
why not?
It's very
keep
nice.
my ears warm.
Well, there you go. Number 7, VK asks, looking for advice. Currently, we are migrating users from Exchange 2010 to Exchange Online. The issue is we have a list of disabled users, so people who left the organization. Someone from my team removed all required attributes like mail nickname, proxy address, target address. The thing is, these users not showing on Exchange 2010 and Exchange 2016 on-prem servers just had AD object. Question is how to handle these users with migrations. So
First, give them points for not deleting the users, just disabling them, because that keeps integrity intact.
Says when I'm trying to repopulate those removed attributes, a duplicate email user account is provisioning in Exchange 2010 and Exchange 2016, but the mailbox size is showing less than 1 megabyte. Please let me know if anyone faces this kind of issue before.
I don't understand how just adding content. You're basically taking an object and you're adding attributes to an object. How it can actually go out and create a new account? The two don't correlate.
Well, new mailbox, right? Not necessarily a new account.
Yeah, but even if you add an attribute to a user, why would it create a new mailbox?
It wouldn't create another mailbox.
To do that.
Is there's something we're not getting with this, because I'm thinking of the SharePoint situation where you've got the users table, and everybody in AD gets mapped into the users table, and if you add somebody back to the organization after you've deleted their account, they don't necessarily get wired up to users. Is there a known commandlet or I'm not an Exchange admin at all, so I'm just spitballing here, but do they have something where they can wire up accounts to specific Exchange mailboxes?
I don't know that. I would assume so, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
The problem that I'm having is I don't think, like you said, we're getting the full story, because if what he's basically saying there, and I apologize, the VKI.
Yeah.
I hopefully that's I'm sorry, it could be male, female, I don't know. But what they're saying here is I'm trying to repopulate those removed attributes. And I don't see how repopulating attributes creates a duplicate mail user account. It's just, that's not how it works. I mean, there's no trigger there. Just when you populate an attribute. So an attribute is just a field in the database in the DAG. That's all it is.
You think maybe they're trying to repopulate post migration, and there might be some sort of I can think of 100 different questions that are relevant, but I don't think we got a critical piece of information. Because I agree with what you're saying, Mike. It makes no sense.
Yeah, we need more input on this, Christian.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go back and provide. I'll drop a note in the original.
That reminds me, how come we never got Julie on the show?
Yeah, really.
Because I completely forgot.
Christian,
Julie, plug your ears.
You had homework.
I'm going to so invite Julie.
This is a live person we're talking about. We
This
totally
is an
talked about
this. Is a member of the audience. This is yeah.
Oh man, we're sorry, Julie. We left it in Christian's hands.
We'll never do that again.
You know, I really don't appreciate the pile-on while I'm in this sensitive moment of typing another note for you to tell me it's something else I need to do. I can't do everything at the same time. Yeah, no, I've got that note. I'll when we're done and I'm going through and adding in the notes here, I'll make sure to forward the meeting invite for next week to Julie. So she said she'd come to the table with a bunch of questions, which is more than what you guys have done. As far as adding other questions.
Wow.
Lash out much?
Wow.
Liam, do you have any questions, any patterns that you're seeing, anything that that's been brought up recently? And why are you also orange man bad?
I don't know. I suddenly went orange. It's pretty impressive. I look like Eric now. I mean, almost. I mean, I look at Oompa Loompa. Oh, look at that. That's brilliant.
I was suggesting Trump, but you know. Okay, there you go. You're back to normal.
It was a light thing. I don't know what that was. I must have moved and the light went weird.
That's funny.
But yeah. No, I mean, I don't have any questions. I noticed some of the stuff that I'm doing a lot of. The hardest thing, and I'm sure everyone's facing the same thing, is the sheer, the rapid changes are causing me a problem now. You know, so especially obviously, predominantly I spend a lot of time building courses. So I end up going through and building a course in a certain way, and then you come back and it's like it's all shifted. It's all changed, and then I have to go back and redo everything. But you get the emails that say, "Oh yeah, this is going to be changed," and you're like, "Oh cool, it's going to be changed," and then it just changes. It's like great, and then of course, I had one the other day where I'd done threat management for mobile devices, and I'd done all of that, and then of course, then Microsoft have changed. The exam is going to be changing, and so for example, when I did all the work for AIP. If you notice in the MS 101 exams, I think it is, they're removing the AIP. It's now being taken out of the exam, and it's now being added as sensitive types and things like that. So it's not the same anymore. So that's the thing that I've been struggling with clients too, is that one day you're saying, well, let's talk about AIP labels. Let's talk about how we apply encryption policies and things like that. And then it's like, no, let's not do that anymore. Let's talk about creating sensitive type policies instead, which fundamentally are the same kind of thing, but not. And that's starting to cause me a problem now. I mean, I like where it's going, but I know you guys don't have the answer of what we do with that. I just have to suck it up and stop moaning. I mean, that's really how that comes down to it.
It's not just the features and the priority and what they're building, but also the way that they're describing some of the things, some of the language changes that are happening as well. So there's
fundamentally different. I mean, I taught a course and I talked about labels and assigning a label and doing stuff, and then now it's a sensitive type policy. Now, it's the same thing.
It's because too many people learn the terms. Microsoft has to move the cheese.
Yep. So everyone's like, oh, we're going to put these unified labels on. Of course we are. No, we're not. We're going to put sensitive type policies on them now, which are still labels, but they're sensitive labels. Sensitivity labels and sensitivity policies. And we don't actually create policies, which is quite bizarre. You create sensitivity labels that have the stuff you need, and then fictitiously create a policy that doesn't really do anything. It just attaches. So it is that language terminology has become quite confusing now, which we all know because we've worked in the 365 space and the pre-BPOS days and the on-prem days. So we know this happens. I mean, a perfect example of this is SharePoint. How many times did the gear and the settings move to different sides of the screen? Because someone said there was a Y in the day, and so it's got to be on the left. And now it's going to be on the right.
Do you guys remember somebody built the screen and where you floated over to try and click on it over there and it moved over? And they did that with the SharePoint mockup. That was hilarious. No, actually, you just brought something up. It's not in this list of questions this week about applying the labels. Like I've seen this question a number of times come up where people say, I've gone in and created the sensitivity label and I've created it. It's like, how do I actually apply it? They don't realize that, hey, I just created it. Yeah, but you've not yet applied it. And it's a multi-step process.
Yeah. And I'm hoping at some point that they make that a little bit simpler. That you can create the label and it will do a bunch of stuff. I know they've changed, like they've removed some of the legacy stuff where you have to publish everything. It'll do it automatically now. But I personally don't think it's going to change because it comes down to the dollar signs. It comes down to licensing, because I always tell people it's very simple. You want automatic applying of anything, it's E5. That's it. It's a 5 number. That's what it is. If you want to manually do stuff, it's the 3 and down. That's really what it comes down to. So I don't think that's going to change. But I don't know. It is a bit complicated though, just trying to understand the flow based on the terminology. So
don't say flow. Don't say flow.
Oh yeah. Flow doesn't exist now. It's a power automate, because that's an easier mouthful, isn't it? There.
Yeah, really.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to create power automate something. Okay, it's a flow. Or it's an orchestration. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Well, let me say that you're still creating flows using Power Automate. That was the
yes, because that's really what it is. You're creating a flow in Power Automate.
Right.
But then what are you creating in a Power App? An app or a Power App in a Power App?
Oh boy, I'm getting shades of SharePoint 2013 back.
yeah, that's right.
It's an app. It's an app. It's an app until it's an add-in.
It's a bird.
Yeah.
It's a plane.
No, it's just an app. It's like the scene in Being John Malkovich where he goes into his own head. Everybody says Malkovich.
Yeah.
SharePoint in 2013 was app. A document library is an app. An add-in, well, that's an app too. We all got used to that terminology, and then Microsoft goes, doink.
You know what it is? Yep. It's John Lovitch. It's the liar. It's like, where he does this subliminal messaging.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's the ticket. So number 8, Gunjesh says, I'm not able to launch Excel app most of the time. It asks me to start in safe mode, but it does, but next time it doesn't. It just launches. So I reinstalled the entire Office 365 suite multiple times on my Windows 10 laptop, but the Excel problem is still there. I also checked COM add-ins and all are not selected. Any solution for this?
It sounds like it might be an add-in problem, maybe just not a COM add-in problem. Is there
because you can change from the list of add-ins to like COM add-ins to other add-ins. So it might be he has to go through the list of. So to change to the COM add-ins, obviously when you go in, there's a list of add-ins, and then there's a drop-down underneath it where you can change to the different types of add-ins that are supplied. So it may just be he has to go through each of those and make sure that everything's disabled. Or it actually weirdly could just be an OS problem. It could be a driver issue on the Windows machine. I assume it's Windows.
Windows 10.
That'll be causing the issue. Because if Office isn't booting, unless it's an add-in issue, it's something on the OS itself. And reinstalling isn't going to fix it.
Yeah. So Microsoft shifted to using DirectX and Direct Graphics with the Office products at some point. So if you've got a weird problem with your video subsystem, that can factor into it. You can turn that off. I would just start by turning everything off, all add-ins, all enhancements, things like that, and just see if you can run plain as close to safe mode as possible. And if you don't, you can, I assume when the uninstall and reinstall was done, he probably didn't scrub the registry.
No.
So all the old settings and whatnot would still be there. There's a tool.
Off scrub.
Yeah, it's
off scrub.
Off scrub.
Mm-hmm.
I've never used that.
Yeah, the Office Scrubber script.
There's an actual script.
That leaves it squeaky clean. It takes everything. I've used that a couple of times. Also, as far as you're dealing with this, make sure what version you're running. They tend to make updates on the back end from time to time, and that can cause fun things to happen. There was a case with Outlook a couple of months back where it was actually a service change they made on the back end. It caused Outlook to basically come up and just die without any kind of error or anything, and that The immediate fix to that was to move to the prior version, while they figured out what switch they missed through back in the back end, and a couple of hours later they corrected that switch throw, and then everything started working again. But make sure you've got all your updates in, make sure what version you're running, and check that version out as far as if anybody else is complaining with problems like that. Because if it's something they did, a lot of people are going to be seeing it. And again, check the add-ins and so forth. But a lot of that makes sure what version and how recently it's been updated, because things change around in the back end really mysteriously sometimes.
Cool, and I've got the link there as well. Thanks for sharing that, Sean.
Sure.
All right, Christine asks, the question is number 10. So we got 2 more questions here in about 15 minutes. Hi, hoping someone can help. I've organized simultaneous meetings to take place next week. They are in the calendar and attendees have been invited. I don't intend on attending them all myself. So do I need to adjust any settings so that other attendees can lead the meetings? Will they be able to invite other attendees in from the lobby if I'm not at the meeting myself, as long as they are in the team?
So that depends on the configuration of Teams itself. So, for example, if you set it, if it's corporately wide set in Teams to say anybody who's in the organization can allow people in, then anybody can add anybody else in that lobby. So, like, I join meetings ever so often, and sometimes I'm added in, so I can then just, I log in with an organizational account, so it means that I can then add anybody. That's normally the default that people will set for an organization. They'll say globally across teams, that's what it'll be. They'll say allow whatever. And then if it's been changed, then no, they'll have to do something different with the team to kind of allow other people to come in. Like, do you want them to go in the lobby and who can let them in and stuff like that? Otherwise, they'll just sit there. That's what will happen.
Yeah, so that's an admin setting. So that's in. Or
Yep.
Is there anything that's at the Teams level, or is it only within the admin console?
That's all in the Teams admin center. So it's so the default policies that are there, which most people don't tend to add to. So there's meetings policies, chat policies, whatever, all that kind of stuff. They don't tend to change them. If they have, that will be where that setting's reflected, and it's in the admin center.
Yeah, the one other thing I was going to just add to this is that in general, like I don't know that this issue is handled, but some of the best practices as more and more organizations are doing like this with multiple tracks, multiple meetings that are happening, whether you're doing a formal event or just like I think in this person's situation, hey, we're trying to do multiple things. I went and set them up. Other people are going to lead these. But Microsoft, as part of the adoption resources, came out with their virtual event guidance document, which is very detailed and walks you through a number of checklists and best practices with leading an event, whether it's internal or external with external users. It's just a fantastic resource. I know this came from, I don't know who the primary author is, kind of came from the desk of Karawanagtimu there with the Teams organization. So she puts together tons of these resources and also has her vlog and podcast, Coffee in the Cloud, out there primarily about all things Teams. But that's another great resource you can go take a look at, some of the hints and tips for running these things. But yeah, that's something with, if you're trying to have this more inclusive, let people, join in and really collaborate. It's not just a one-way, a single presenter broadcasting information out. Even in a Teams versus a live event as the underlying meeting technology, you can still have a meeting and have people be quiet while somebody's presenting. But in general, meetings are meant to be more interactive. So it makes sense that you want to have multiple leaders that can add other people in and just make it as easy as possible to get people in there collaborating. And Hal, what was that link that you just shared out?
Oh, that's another link on how to remove Office.
Okay.
Also includes the Office Scrub removal script. There is a download link for it.
Okay, I will add that also.
I imagine it's the same thing pretty much that Sean posted, but it's just from the Microsoft rather than the GitHub end of things.
Excellent. All right, so our the final question that we have here, we might have a few minutes to chat it up a bit more, but Tracy asked a question. So my company's now using Teams, and we're still getting used to the functions. So there's the question or recommendations. We have a 4-hour strategy session. We are doing remotely using Teams for about 12 people. Any special features we can utilize besides the obvious? It's a few weeks away. Want to ensure this working session is the most effective it can be. So this is just kind of a broader question of what are the best practices with doing a strategy session using Teams.
The automated coffee drip, 4-hour strategy session.
Yeah.
I was about to say that should be like 20 minutes done.
Yeah. Because everybody's going to fall asleep after the first hour.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, 12 people come. I've done plenty of those where we, historically they're better in person and an off-site where you've got a bunch of the giant wall post-it sticky things, and if you're doing a complete organizational redesign, for example, that will take, if you could accomplish that in 4 hours, get through at least the high level strategy for that. So depends on your background. I come from a project management background. Yeah.
It depends what you're doing though too. Because I mean, if they're rolling out Teams, then the strategy obviously is not just Teams. It's Teams, it's SharePoint Online, it's that piece. And I can see, like, do we have private teams? Do we have private channels? Do we allow that? Do we not allow that? Do we have policies that need to be defined? Like, I can see that, but I have never been successful in having 12 plus people on a meeting and actually coming out with everything decided. Because you end up having 12 people on the call who all have opinions about something, someone takes notes, and then it goes back, and then it'll be Christian who'll go back and create the spreadsheet and go, there it is, I've decided. Like, that's what tends to happen. Not everybody gets to make the decision on all those things. I think if you're looking at Teams, it's going to be, you should break it into smaller sections. It should be, we're going to have tech people on, and we're going to do tech architecture design for site collection structure, private team security policies, and it should be an hour tops. That literally should be an hour. It's a piece of cake. And then the next one should be the business one, which should be how are the end users going to use it. Sorry, Christian. The end users are going to use it, and then talk about, well, are we going to allow this and this and this and this? Like, it should be short and sweet and done. No mixing tech with the regular common people, because it just doesn't quite work that way. Because one of them will overrule, and you'll never get anything done. Because every time the end user says, well, I want to be able to share with anybody, the security guy is going to go, no, that's never going to happen. So it's easier to have the conversation separately and then come together for the kumbaya moment later on.
So not to take away from anything that you just stated, because I
know you're going to go opposite to me. I know this.
No, because I agree with you for the planning of a deployment of Teams. I think the question is that they're going to have a strategy session using Teams. And so she's looking for advice that we're going to do 12 people coming in from different, dial in using Teams. So they're not planning Teams. They're leveraging Teams to do their strategy session on whatever else it is.
So just require people to turn on video.
Yes, put video on and then record the whole thing. That's the most important thing. Video on, record the whole thing, because no one ever really takes notes, not properly. Because they're sitting here trying to pay attention or not. Or like I sat on one thing the other day and somebody had took a screenshot of themselves and that was the image they were using. They didn't have the camera, so that's what they had.
Here's something that I just went and finally played with, and I'm a fanboy instantly, is that if you ever gone in and you've done those automatic recordings in Stream and gone in and then kind of gone through the transcript for those videos, because that's one of the powerful things.
Yep.
To your point, automatically record those things, capture it all. It makes it searchable to go and find exactly where in that discussion we were talking about this keyword, this project, whatever that is. That's all fantastic. But going into Word Online and importing your video and it automatically generating the transcript And so this is a problem with Stream, and I've used YouTube for the same. After you've uploaded a video to YouTube, and it goes through and it creates a transcript, and you're going and pulling it back down. It's choppy lines. There's tons of format. You're going to spend for an hour-long video. It's going to be like 40 pages long, and with line breaks down the middle of the page, and have to go clean up all of that and identify who's speaking. The beauty is that if you go and use Word Online and you upload the video and auto transcript that, it will it's over the right side have the transcript as speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4. You can go and change the name of speaker 1, and it'll do it in the entire transcript. So put the actual names in. You then have the option of grabbing each body of text, each comment, and moving it over into the Word doc, or moving the entire thing over there, and it does a bunch of the formatting already. It is fantastic for going and capturing, especially if you've ever done this. And I know SEO loves this. If you're going to do a blog post and want to include the complete transcript of the video below the video, so that you get all the SEO benefits from that, or people that don't want to watch the video and insist on reading through, and you can have that just as a secondary format. It's just super easy now to do that with that. Of course, it takes a while. It's not the fastest process. It's like uploading a 4-hour video to YouTube. Like, get it started, go have lunch, take a nap, come back later. It takes a while, but I tell you, so much better than sitting there doing that manually.
I would always tell people to add the live captions on. They're in preview in Teams, because I'm not always, paying attention, obviously. But actually, I know, weirdly, but actually when it's on, so especially I can sometimes turn things down a little bit because my kids obviously come in and out, so I can turn it down, but I can see what's going on. And if I don't quite hear something correctly, I can see at best what it's trying to translate. And actually, it's not too bad. Like, I was just testing it with Christian just to make sure it knew what he was saying. But it does. I mean, it got word for word exactly what he was saying. So I've used it before on meetings. It's not great when you have lots of funny accents. Honestly, it doesn't always work well.
Only one of us
I did
do.
not say that. I did not say that. That's not what I meant.
Liam, we all have a funny accent to you.
Yeah.
You do indeed. You do indeed. But weirdly, let's be honest, the technology is kind of skewed to you guys' accent, not mine.
And
let's be real about it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't knew you were going to say that. You're like, and the problem is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am excited for having a similar experience with the translation services. I don't know how fast that's going to arrive, but we're getting very close to that as well.
So I got to say, just a little tidbit here is that I have a meeting every month that lasts exactly that. We start out 8 a.m. in the morning, we go until noon. But the thing is that we don't use Teams, first of all, so I can't really compare it to, the functionality that Teams has. We use Zoom. And Zoom has, what we do is we set up multiple breakout rooms inside of Zoom. So we have 16 people, 17 people, I don't know the exact number. And the beginning of the session, we're given assignments. And then we go to our breakout rooms, we discuss, what we need to discuss, and then we bring it back to the main group, and we do this several times. Now, a couple of pointers on that is, number one, Zoom can record all the breakout rooms individually. Okay, so if you have 4 breakout rooms, it'll record each one, so those can be played back to anyone who could not be involved in that breakout room to hear what the discussion was, and so on and so forth. The second thing is all of them are transcribed automatically. Right, so if you have transcription on in your global Zoom tenant, then everything is transcribed, and you have an what do they call it, an AT file or something? I can't remember what the transcription file is. That's generated after you're done. And even if it wasn't, we were using a tool before. We were using Zoom called Web Captioner, which is a free tool if you ever want to use one that'll transcribe in real time your meetings. It works really nice, and it's multi-language, so it can transcribe into multiple languages at one time. I mean, while you're talking, which is really cool. But anyways, we take breaks. The important thing is that everything is moderated to the point that you take breaks a minimum of 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and you don't work more than that. So I think if she's looking for pointers to make this meeting productive, is number one, if you can kind of split things up and not have the entire group of 12 providing feedback and talking over each other and doing everything like that, it's definitely helpful. And the ability to record those individual sessions and transcribe them, but also to break up the sessions themselves so people are more comfortable. Because, it's a long time to sit. It's like being in a meeting room. It's a long time to sit in a meeting room. You just have to take breaks. And, even if, you're at home and you're remote, or some people are in the office, you still have to take breaks. You still have to do that. And that's just that's a mental thing. It helps you with your mind and understand, processing things that you just talked about for the last 30 to 40 minutes. The use of whiteboards, we use whiteboards a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I mean, more than we should, but we do. And then finally, I'll say, is it possible that some of this doesn't really need to be 4 hours? Is it possible that, some of this could be email? I don't know, because sometimes meetings don't have to be meetings just to be meetings. So 4 hours for a strategy session, maybe she's got it, that they have enough things to talk about and to strategize. But more often than not, I found that a 4 hour meeting really could have been like a 2 hour, hour and a half, maybe, 2 hours. And the rest could all be Slack conversations or email.
Well, so. And one thing too is it's really difficult to iterate on something. You need give people time to consume the information, digest it, and come back with ideas. So I agree with you on the effectiveness of a 4 hour meeting, no matter what you're doing, no matter how well you have it outlined and orchestrated with breaks, that it's difficult to do that. I started my career, I went and got, as a business analyst and then became a project manager, was formally trained on joint application development, JAD, design process. And that methodology is you sequester everyone in a room for multiple days. And I had projects where we were like a week, where we had the engineers, the developers, the end users or customers, the planning team, an executive leader that were sitting in this room. And we got stuff built and done. And it's great when we were building an interface for a product. Was it the best result of that, where if we had been able to break that up and come back to it, we might have been able to let it kind of sink in, digest, and go to. But again, that leave that up to her and her team for how they have that plan and how they orchestrate that. But I would say that one other thing I would just add on to the end of that is, so you talked about whiteboard. Best practice is using the shared OneNote for notes throughout that process. Have the outline of the schedule, let people share their initial thoughts, and then iterate on that following that strategy session. That's a good practice as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, gentlemen, I know that we're over on time there. I really appreciate everybody for joining today again. And for those that are watching out of the live streams at one of our locations, thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll be back, as we are every Monday. We'll be back for episode 28 next Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific for 90 minutes. Yay, yeah. And if you search later today, tomorrow, out on Buckley Planet and out on YouTube, you'll have the entire recording with a link list of every topic that we covered, with a link to the exact snapshot of that, the start of that, the timestamp of that discussion. So you don't have to wade through all of that, but you can go find those posts out on buckleyplanet.com. And I am going to show it one more time, since I have it out there. There it is, out on the stream there. But as you can see, go through the complete link list and include the video there. If you do have any questions you'd like us to answer next week, or if you need immediate help, you can drop us a line at officehours@collabtalk.com. And with that, gentlemen, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Adios.
Take care.